At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
Your child is trying to eat a frog, and I'd be like, okay, I'll get involved now, whatever they were doing.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
Some 12-year-olds are very, very ready to do things, and some are not.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
Basically, once breastfeeding is over, we're done with that.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
A skirted bathing suit is longer. Yep. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And today we are talking about how old is old enough.
Mm-hmm. To do various things. To go home, not for us, for our kids, to have a phone, to go on a date, things like this. We are revisiting this topic. We did an episode on this topic in 2017 when my kids were 9, 12, and 14 years old. And Margaret, your kids were 5, 7, and 8 years old.
That sounds right.
It's a long time ago. And you say in this episode, as I went and listened back to it, it's several times, you know what, come back to me in like 7 or 8 years, because maybe my thoughts on that will change, but I don't know. So many things you're like, my kids are still 5, 7, and 8. What do I know? And now you've actually gone through these things. So I thought it would be interesting to revisit these.
Now my kids are 15, 14, and 12.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and 12. So your youngest, right. So the youngest out of all our kids now is, between us, is 12. And back then the oldest was 14.
Crazy.
Oh, the turntables. Yes.
Misty watercolored memories, sunrise, sunset.
Back in 2017, you might recall there was one listener, Donna, who posited that the answer to all of these things is 12. The answer is always 12.
I do remember.
Her kids at the time were 6 and 7. So she's like, this is not speaking from experience. This is speaking from my imagination. 12 is the golden age of responsibility, and all this stuff is going to be okay when my kids are 12. And the answer is always 12. And she said that, jokingly, but it is kind of, during the episode, we're like, there's a reason for that. That kind of does feel right, but not exactly. So, we'll explore that.
All right. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So nothing about this is one size fits all. Please don't take this as like we said you had to get your kid a phone at age X or had to let them walk home, because every kid is different. To quote myself from 2017, because you were like, 12 sounds fine to me. And I said, well, here's the thing. Not all 12-year-olds are the same. Speaking at the time as somebody who had had 2 12-year-olds, now I've had 3, that some 12-year-olds are very, very ready to do things and some are not. And I think the kid's readiness to do something, asking to do it, being willing to do it, wanting to do it, say like stay home by themselves, is something that has to be taken into consideration. It doesn't mean you do it, but it's certainly a check in the box of like, they might be ready if they seem to want to.
Right. And also your circumstances are super different. Like I know people who live in apartments with a tenant who lives upstairs or a doorman building where there's somebody who could help out. And then people who live in the middle of the woods by themselves. Like they might be very different scenarios, or even neighborhoods where you don't know the neighbors. Like there are a lot of scenarios where I know when my kids were just coming into that age, both of the houses on either side of us had no one in them. So we just functionally did not really have neighbors. And I live on a street without a sidewalk. And so literally, like if they had any trouble, it would have involved like almost running out into like a very busy road. I mean, that very much affected my decision about when to leave them at home, whereas my sister was leaving her kids home a lot earlier because she lives in an apartment with a tenant who lives in an upstairs apartment. Like, who knows her kids? So it's almost like you have a babysitter who's not paying attention. I mean, that's a very different scenario than my kids needing to go out onto the highway and flag someone down.
I grew up like in suburbia, not busy streets. And my grandmother lived upstairs from us in our house in a separate apartment, but she was around. And so, right, it meant my mom could run somebody to the dentist because there was an adult home. But it's interesting to me that you say that, because I think we tend to think, I think the broad spectrum is that country kids, splash in puddles and milk cows and live the perfect independent existence. And, city kids are helicopter parented and overprotected and things like that. But this is one way, you're correct, where having people around you, I live in an apartment building, makes it easier to leave your kids home because there are people around. That's a huge factor where my kids might have more freedom than some other kids would in that particular way, being home alone, quote unquote, because they're not alone.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the variables are more variable than we imagine. Like, what does it look like in your area to walk to the store? Is that lonely walk down a untended highway, or is it a walk through a neighborhood where there's lots of people? Or is it a walk down a suburban sidewalk where you pass 3 different people who are out mowing their lawns? Like, these things look very different. There's a ton of variables.
So let's talk about that. How old is old enough to walk to school by yourself? Back then, I said 12, and I think I would still say 12. But again, this is New York City, which again, variables. Like New York City, there's people around. It's fine. Like, right. There's also e-bikes and buses. And I was always worried about a distracted driver hitting my kids. That's what I was worried about. I wasn't worried about them getting mugged. I was worried about
like going up on the sidewalk.
The crazy drivers in New York City. Yeah. And that my kids would be not looking where they were going across the street. I mean, unfortunately, it happens, right? It was a lot of traffic, and I was worried about that. But got to the point where they didn't really want to be seen too close to the school with me. And we would walk to school because it was close to the school. So we would cross the sort of last busy crosstown street, which was about 5 blocks from school. And then the rest of the way was like Richard Scarry's busy town. They knew the guy who ran the deli. They knew the dry cleaners. They knew there were 18 businesses they could duck into if they had a problem. And they knew these kids and they recognized them. And it was like an idyllic existence once I got them past the busy road. And so I did that until my kids like basically refused to allow me to do it anymore.
Yeah, we live, like I said, on a busy road with no sidewalks. So walking and even riding a bike here is complicated. But there's one turn that's like a blind turn on like a state road with no sidewalk. So I was jogging at one time and a truck's mirror, like brushed my hair. Like, it's crazy. And I'm like, my kids, I don't want them doing it when they're 50. Like, there's really no walkable way to get from my house to the school. But around that curve, there's a little public tennis courts where there's a parking lot, and we often would drive them there and have them walk from there, which is about a mile. And I would let them ride bikes like 4th grade. What is that? 10? Are you 10 in 4th grade?
Yeah, 9, 10. Yeah.
So I think if you're close to a school, New York City is a little bit different. In my kind of suburban town that's very walkable with a lot of sidewalks, there's lots of kids who start walking to school in 1st or 2nd grade. And there's crossing guards at the crossing places, and there's lots of people taking their kids to school, and,
Right. And if you're in one of those situations, I think it's easy to sort of, there's a real industry of like, kids are overprotected. And if you're not letting your, 6-year-old walk to the store and buy a loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter and come home, like, you're a bad parent. And like that, you probably live in the same block as a market if you're saying that, right? It's like, I know there's a show where Japanese children go and, sign up for Social Security when they're 3, whatever. It's not, it can happen. It doesn't mean it's a good idea if your house is on a busy road. So maybe I'm rejecting the very premise of this episode that there's a sort of one size fits all right answer. But I think it's still good to talk about like, here are the variables that might go into it and why.
We had Camilo Ortiz on the podcast, and we were talking about fostering independence in kids. And he made a distinction that I hadn't really thought about, that like, as you start to question yourself on where you can let kids have more independence, that you take out of the equation right away physical danger. Like, physical danger is not a good place to let kids have independence. Like, if they are going to be walking around a blind curve, as I said, I don't want my kids doing that at 18. It's not a safe place to walk for anybody. It's a bad pedestrian walk, and they keep talking about putting a sidewalk in, and we would love it. The minute they put a sidewalk in, my kids could have walked to school when they were certainly 10 or 12. It's a mile and a half. It's a longer walk, but go make that walk. I would have been completely fine with it, but I'm not putting my kids in physical, dangerous situations. Now, if you're thinking that a New York City sidewalk is physically dangerous because someone could grab them, like, you have to ask yourself, am I being realistic about this physical danger? Like, yes, cars often, someone's reading their phone and they drive up on the sidewalk and hit people, but you can't control for everything. You can't control for like any possible danger. It's not possible. But I think it's healthy to have that conversation with yourself of like, what is the danger of this situation?
Well, a blind curve is different from somebody might grab them. The actual risk of like, there's traffic, that's a really busy street. People are always rushing to work and there's a lot of trucks there and my 8-year-old might not be seen. Like, I feel like that's actual and you're not a bad person for indexing for that. But like, what if somebody bothers them? What if this, again, to use New York City as an example, my kids, as they got to be 12, they wanted to walk to school by themselves. Fine. The last couple of times I walked to school with them, I'm like, see that? See Samad's? Samad is a really nice man. If you just go in there and say, like, this person's bothering me, like, this is a safe place. This is a safe place. This is a store. You can go to the Haagen-Dazs, but I don't want you to go into this store. And you know what I mean? Like the ground rules and showing them the benchmarks of where they can go if they need it.
Right. You're doing our old friend scaffolding, right? Which is, I just was at the zoo with my kids who are now grown-ups, and I did the same thing. I mean, now they have phones, so it's kind of different. Like, we got separated and I call and it's like, oh, we went ahead to the gorillas. It's like, oh, okay, we'll see you there. I'm not that worried about losing them at the zoo anymore. But I think, yes, in general, like, this is where we'll meet and this is what we'll do. And if you get lost, we'll meet at this point. Like, you're scaffolding protections around them as opposed to walking in front of them and getting everything out of the way.
Well, that leads into the phone, because the phone these days is that major, like, well, they can always go because they can always text you if they need help, or you can always check where they are if they made it across the busy street, right? But that means the phone, which is a sort of number one thing that people ask about, think about, wring their hands about, especially when you're in a place where it hasn't happened yet. Your kid doesn't have the smartphone yet, but it's like, uh-oh, and they really want one, and all the second graders have one, right? And what do? My kid's former grade school, the principal talking to parents about what age is right for a phone. She was urging delay. And she, said, like, I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking for the kids who end up in my office, for the bad choices that they make with unfettered access to the internet. I have yet to see a 5th grader or a 6th grader who can really handle that responsibility. So I would encourage you, she was saying to a bunch of us whose 6th graders already had smartphones, to delay that choice. And I sat there like, yep, I agree, and yet they're in it. So all my kids had phones that weren't smartphones, like phones that could text, but they couldn't go on the internet by the time they were like 12. We used to call them StarTAC 3000s. I don't even know if they're available anymore. Like, you couldn't stream video.
Yeah, I see the little kids with like their watches that you like, Dick Tracy watches. All right, let's visit phones when we come back after this break.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
Our phones were halfway through 6th grade. That's when we got kids' phones. And that was our rule until my youngest was in 4th grade, and I just got sick of looking for it, pick up and delaying it, and I got her a phone. I went in earlier, and I will say we then had some more rules at home around the phones. It needs to be plugged in. I have everybody's phone password, and we revisit a lot the phone stuff and, conversations around the way you behave on the phone is the way you behave in real life. Like, we're not cursing on the phones. We're not doing nonsense on the phones. But the phone is a solution, like Homer Simpson says about beer, the cause of and the solution to all of life's problems. The phone is the same way.
Yeah. I just think they're an evil, and they're starting to be clawed back. Have your kids' schools started to put rules around they can't have phones out at school?
I think they've always had that. I believe so.
My kids are in high school. Well, I have 2 out of high school and 1 still in high school. And the high school my sons went to, the rule was like, you don't have it out in class because that's rude. In the hallways, we're not going to stop them because you have to learn how to, use a phone responsibility. And we're not going to wade into that. But my daughter's high school, just within the last year, gave a presentation about how the amount of interruptions. Of course, the kids are shopping on their phones instead of paying attention during history. That's one kind of problem. But the constant notifications and the parents texting to check in, which, I was certainly guilty of. Don't forget you have a dentist after school. You're pinging them in the middle of history class to let them know. The interruptions are constant. And so they have started taking away the kids' phones. They're supposed to put them away. They're not supposed to have them out. They're supposed to be in their lockers. If they get caught, they get detention. And they've asked the parents to support this. Like, please stop sending them memes, at 10:30. Like, just don't do it. And I was doing it. Like, we have a family chat, and if I saw something funny, I just would throw it on the family chat thinking like, well, you'll see it the next time you pick up your phone. But of course, my kids, being the ages that they are so attached to their phones that I was interrupting them during bio lab to show them a picture of a dog. It's not great. It's not great for our kids learning. I'm all for taking the phones away during school, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. I think that there is no solution to the phones. We'd be better off, all of us would be better off if we didn't have smartphones fundamentally, probably. But they solve too many problems. So we're not going backwards at this point. And then I think we have tons of episodes about it. Then you've got to do ethics that fit the age where your kid ends up having a phone. And I did give my youngest a phone in 4th grade because it was just so much more convenient. I'm going to say this, and I'm saying it off the top of my head. So will it pass the test? I don't know. I think that no matter what age your kid gets a phone, the problems catch them. That my 4th grader didn't really care about her phone. She just had it to make phone calls, but she wasn't getting mean Snapchat. She didn't know how to use Snapchat when she was in 4th grade. She pretty much treated it like a phone at that point because she wanted to come home and do screens or watch things or whatever. She wasn't that locked in on the phone in 4th grade. She didn't seem that interested in it. And so it made sense for her to have it. But by 7th or 8th grade, the kids are way into the apps and the problem, some stuff on the phones. I don't know that would have changed. I think the phones kind of catch them where they are. If you give a kid a phone in 8th grade, then it's all problems. I don't know. I don't know that there's a great way to do it.
you're circling the point, which is we are conflating in this conversation, as we often do, phones and social media. And I think like social media is a big problem, and its addictive nature and its ability for the kids to bully each other, whatever. The way to reach the kids 24/7 and, you know, poke their insecurities. But the phone is the method by which that may or may not be delivered. So the phone is one thing if your kid is home by herself after school for 2 hours till you get home from work. But the social media, it's like delaying that, I really think is worthwhile as somebody whose kids are on the other side of that before it I think the pandemic was when it was like, we all have to let our kids have phones all the time because otherwise they don't have peers. And now this kind of like the horse is out of the barn.
Yeah, I do think separating the like overall health versus screens and its role in that is super important and complicated, and that it's not really do you or don't you have a phone. Like that's the older me parent talking to younger me, making decisions about phones. It's not really the phone. It's a holistic problem that the phone is. I was talking to Dr. K about healthy gaming on a recent Fresh Take, and it's the games aren't the problem. It's the game becomes a symptom of something that's wrong. And yes, the game is feeding that and is addictive, but the game is only part of the system. Tricky.
How old is old enough to babysit your younger siblings? What would you say now?
I mean, hashtag never. I don't know. I mean, what I found is that the problem is the fighting. I mean, the problem is not the age. It's the problem of putting one child in an authority position over another child is hugely problematic. And again, at 25, I'm going to say, in my 50s, and when my sister tells me what to do, I'm like, oh, come at me, will you? I mean, it's not a good dynamic. Like one child being in an authority role over somebody else.
Right.
I still don't want my brother to tell me what to do. And, you know, it's a bad dynamic.
The danger is the bloody nose, right? Not the bad guy coming to the door, but the scratching fight that's going to occur.
Spoiler alert, the older kid is the bad guy when you put him in charge.
We got to the point with, my two boys used to just they were cats. They just fought. But it got to the point where we felt we couldn't leave them really alone without a babysitter because they could actually get into a physical altercation. But it got to the point where the older one was like 8th grade, dude, we can get a babysitter who's 18 months older than you are to come and keep order, or you can behave yourself and not lord over them. We have 2 TVs. You pick something and they pick something else. No fighting, and you don't have to have a babysitter anymore. At some point that becomes the carrot. But until then, maybe it's having boys. I'm going to be completely gendered, but I think if I had a daughter who was oldest, there probably wouldn't be as much kicking and screaming happening when we left the house. But maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I used to always joke, even when the kids were 7, it's like a barbecue. As long as there was older girl anywhere in the yard, I could relax and enjoy myself, because that kid was usually being excuse me, Mrs. Abels, but that your child is trying to eat a frog. And I'd be like, okay, I'll get involved now, whatever they were doing. So yeah, we have the same gender breakdown, 2 older boys and then a younger daughter. And yeah, I now, again, our situation, we probably had babysitters later than most because of the way we were situated with no kind of immediate help around. And yeah, it does become a problem when you have a 16-year-old girl babysitting the 13-year-old boy. It's not a good vibe. And so, yep, we just got to a point eventually where we would go out longer and longer. And I still don't leave my kids alone overnight. And my oldest is 15. And I don't think I would. I would have somebody kind of managing. But again, yeah, I wouldn't do that.
It depends.
Yeah, a lot of variables.
Sure. How old is old enough to date? As in go somewhere, go for bubble tea or to the movies or something?
Well, this we're bumping up against now. My oldest is 15 and my kids are getting more interested in this topic. And it's funny, I was not a dater in high school and none of my siblings had serious relationships in high school. And so I kind of had a weird mental default of, oh, you date when you're in college. And apparently that's not the case anymore. I don't know. I haven't hit it yet. It's definitely gurgling around me in the groundwater. I know that there are 15 and 16-year-olds in serious relationships around me, but I haven't had to confront it yet, and I'm not looking forward to it.
You said, funny, in 2017, I asked you the same question, and you said, I have no idea. My 8-year-old thinks kissing is gross. Talk to me in 8 years. So we're there. We're almost there. 7 years later, you're still like, yeah, I think that it's kind of another version of what that principal said about the phones. I mean, I have had 14-year-olds who thought they were in serious relationships that end in blow ups on social media with 45 of their peers involved, and then they wish they didn't do it. And I think later is probably better, and I think it's not bad, but it's not, again, it's like, it's not dating. It's like we're doing something that our peers to really seem to think we should do, and everybody's watching, and there's a major audience. Like Jason and Michelle like each other, and they're going to go out for bubble tea. Like that is like big news when you're in 9th grade. And it feels important.
For sure. Even younger. Like I've definitely had that in 5th and 6th grade. It's like, is this dating? What's going on? I asked someone out, and it's a lot of drama. And I think it's play and fun, but I also think, and parents, as we move into the next phase of this discussion, if you want to grab headphones or not have, conversations about what dating looks like in front of your kids, this is your heads up. But you're talking about a huge difference. Like, what does the word dating mean? Like, sexual activity and dating are not the same thing. Passing notes or being like, Jimmy's my boyfriend, or this one's my girlfriend or boyfriend, really different conversations. I think kids are having really different conversations than we had about sexuality, gender, dating. There's a lot more exploration of that than I was exposed to as a kid. And I think that that's all probably a net positive, but I think that sex is a very different conversation than dating, and what age that is appropriate. I think you have to be really clear on what your family values are around that. And I think that you have to have early and often conversations about the joys and consequences of sexual activity and what those look like for your individual child.
Whether it's sex or it's just that like dating, like you're talking on the phone for 2 hours every night and you're not even sure you like them anymore, but you can't break up because the whole school knows. Like, it doesn't have to be bad, but there's not an argument that that's better to start doing at 13 than at 15, right? Or to be sexually active at 16 instead of 20.
I think walking your kids from the difference between dating as we passed a note, maybe we went out together for bubble tea, as you say, and like the thrill and excitement of joining into dating and acknowledging these burgeoning feelings comes up very quickly in middle school and high school against sexual activity and its consequences. And I think those conversations need to be had very seriously and very often, and that it's fine to involve your personal family values in that conversation in very explicit ways, because I think sometimes we think like, well, our values are clear to our kids, and maybe they aren't. And maybe our feelings about sexual activity for teenagers, those are uncomfortable conversations, but you can't skip them.
Mm-hmm. Right. And by the time you feel like this is probably way too early to be talking about this, by the time you feel that, it's not. It's like it's in the zone too late for you to be talking about that thing that you think is too soon.
Absolutely. And it's hallways or pathways, not doors. Like where bubble tea, I passed you a note, we're getting married in 2nd grade, bleeds into we are involved in sexual activity as middle schoolers or high schoolers. You think there are going to be clear road markers for those things. And I'm not talking about my children and my personal experience. I'm talking about the general writ large experience of people I know. they're not big doors. They're not huge road markers. It kind of bleeds from one to the next, and you have to be having those conversations the whole time so that you don't get caught unawares.
Right. And your kid could be the kid who is very ready for the bubble tea and notes in the hallway, but not so ready for the sexual pressure and the, I don't really like this person anymore, but they won't let me break up with them. Like that kind of stuff, it can ramp up. And so, yeah, I mean... So put that off, I guess I'm saying, but can you? Yeah. It depends.
Well, and also, even if you don't have control over putting it off, this is a 1,000 conversation situation, not a 2 conversation situation. We'll be right back. Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that, taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
How old do you think is old enough to walk to school by yourself?
Maybe like 11 or 12.
How old do you have to be to walk home by yourself from school?
12.
12?
What about being home without a babysitter? How old?
I'd say like about 12, but I think it would depend on how long.
What about stay alone without a babysitter?
No.
Never?
Never.
How old do you think you should be before you get a phone?
8.
8? What would you do with a phone when you're 8?
Play games. I'd say probably like 12 to have like a data plan and be able to call and like have your friends' numbers. But if you're just having like an iPod for music and games or like just texting your parents when you're like home alone, then I think probably like 10.
How old before you go out on a date?
I'm not going to go on a date.
Why?
I don't want to. If you've met the person and they're nicer, then I think that they could go on a date earlier than like if they were a little bit rude.
So if your kid wants to go out with somebody rude, then they have to wait till they're 16.
Yeah.
At least.
How old do you have to be to get married?
60?
Wow, that's pretty old.
I'm not going to get married.
Why not?
Because of the kissing.
Where will you live for the rest of your life if you don't get married?
Here.
With me?
Uh-huh.
How old am I?
60.
You think I'm 60? Okay. All right, Amy, what else you got for me? How old?
How old are your kids at the age when it becomes actually inappropriate for them to see you naked?
So I'm a never nude, so 0. Basically, once breastfeeding is over, we're done with that.
That's exactly what you said in 2017, like 0. You let your kids see you naked?
Yeah, I'm a never nude. I don't let anyone see me naked, including myself. So I'm very uptight around nudity. I sleep in clothing. I'm a never nude. Like it has nothing to do with like moralizing. I am just very uncomfortable with my own or other people's nudity. And I believe I may have talked about it in the 2017 episode that going on like spa weekends for bachelorette weekends back in the day, we had a joke that at the spa, there was team nudie and team suitie, meaning like people who wore swimsuits at the spa and people who were nude. And my sister, who's like my twin, we're born a year apart, is a team nudie. She's very comfortable with nudity. And I am a team suitie. I don't like nudity.
With what's appropriate.
It has nothing to do with the morals of nudity. I don't even know if I have an opinion on this for other people's families, but I don't want to see anyone naked ever.
I'm not an exhibitionist at all, but like they walk in and I'm changing. I'm not like, you have to get out, I'm changing. But I did keep it going a lot longer with my daughter than my sons, which I feel like is appropriate. Like I still let my daughter see me naked. I'm not like, come watch me change, but she walks in the bathroom while I'm in the bathroom. She knocks. I'm like, come in. And, I'm half dressed or whatever. I think it's very good for my teenage daughter to see what a woman's body looks like that isn't airbrushed on social media and things like that. So I'm not seeking it out, but I'm comfortable with it.
I definitely do a lot of that. And I do walk around in a bra and stuff when I'm getting changed. And I'm not like, oh no, don't look at where my arms fall out of my bra. Like I'm definitely try to be very body positive around the things that I'm hiding because bodies are shameful. I'm just a never nude, and that's just how I roll. Sorry.
How old is okay for kids to wear makeup?
Oh gosh, we've had this fight. I'm sure I would have said 16, and it turned out it was 10.
Exactly. That is, you're like, yeah, my kids, they're young, a long time. I hate makeup. That was sort of your answer. Like, I hope never. Who cares?
Yep, wrong about that. Yes, my daughter is very into makeup, has been since she was maybe 10. Her friends are into makeup.
Yeah, that's social media. Yep.
We do have a no makeup at school rule that is flouted, but I feel like this is a dance I did with my own mother and that it's good. And my mom had a rule about this. She was a family therapist. Put the lines tighter than you actually want them so that the kid has room to go outside the lines, but you don't actually care. And so this is definitely the makeup at school rule is, some mornings our lips look particularly dewy and our eyes are popping with a certain kind of mascaraed look that I don't think is natural. But as long as you keep it where we can both have plausible deniability that you're not wearing makeup, I'm going to let it slide.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When I was in like 4th, 5th grade, I'm very pale. I'm light skinned and I had a certain pallor. I mean, still do. I wear makeup all the time because I'm pretty pale without makeup on. And I had a particular teacher who used to regularly stop class when I was in 5th grade to ask me if I was okay. Was I about to faint? Did I need help? And I'd be like, no, I'm fine. And then it would happen again, like a week later. It kept happening. You can imagine how mortifying.
You were being treated like a 15th century, wasting child.
Right. And I'm just sitting there in history class and all of a sudden she'd say oh, are you okay? It was mortifying. So I remember crying to my mother and she was like, you can't, wear makeup to school. And I'm like, but I have to because she keeps interrupting class. So my mother slipped me a little, Almay bronzer and it was the same thing, put on a little bit of the bronzer and it worked. The teacher stopped asking me if I was ill and I wasn't kicked out of school.
I feel like we could do a whole episode around this because I think it's an interesting debate about how much control should you have around how your children present themselves, because it's a journey, and I think in general, I think it would be a good episode topic because I certainly fought a lot about this with my own mother, and my siblings do like to laugh as they watch my daughter and I navigate it. But it's an interesting question, and I think there's issues around how you present yourself does matter in the world, and I think that kids, now I'm not speaking about my own children, but kids who present very kind of, if their presentation is very like, I'm an outsider and I don't fit into school, and the way I do my makeup and the way I present myself is very kind of counterculturally, I think it does hurt a child in terms of how they're perceived by, I think it's a what do you call it? It's a circular, like it pulls everything in a certain direction that like teachers tend to see kids like that as like problem kids and like, do you want to make your life more difficult? But maybe you do. And I do think that kids should be able to express themselves more in their own way as they get older. And then I also think for girls, I struggle with this presentation is sexual in ways that you may not fully understand.
Oh, that's a really good point.
And I worry about you, so let's say walking into town down our busy street. I mean, I walked home from Catholic school every single day in a hand-me-down skirt that was 6 inches too short because I was tall and the people we got them from were short. And I laughingly looked back and I was like, Mom, you basically let me walk down the street in like a suggestive Catholic schoolgirl's uniform on like a trucker's highway. And let me tell you, many people had things to say about it to me along the highway. And this is a deep issue. Like, at what point as women should we be allowed to present ourselves in any way possible without being harassed? I would like that to be, I should be able to walk down the street naked without people harassing me. I would like that to be the reality. But as I parent a teenage daughter, I get lost in, I want you to have the autonomy to present yourself in any way that you feel comfortable, but I don't want you to face any consequences for how you present yourself. And I'm not sure where the lines are there. I don't know. I'm figuring it out, or not figuring it out, as the case may be.
Yeah, I think that wishing things were different is part of this, right? Like wishing our kids could have a grade school experience free of the internet and social media, and wishing our girls could wear whatever they wanted to school without getting unwelcome attention and catcalls, and wishing the world were different for our kids, and yet they're navigating an imperfect world. And so I think the kids' readiness, again, has to be part of this. If you have a 10-year-old that really, really, really wants to, paint on purple eyeliner, then you find the spaces and places to let that kid do it.
Yeah, and that's basically where we come out, is that spaces and places is our answer to makeup, is that, if your friends want to come over and do makeovers and get all made up, it's totally fine. But there are certain spaces and places where this is and is not currently appropriate. And, I do think also that sometimes kids are boundary seeking and they want to be told where the lines are for themselves. And so, it's difficult because they're areas of gray. Like, well, I don't want to police your self-expression, but I do want to offer to you that there are spaces and places where your self-expression is or is not more appropriate.
Uh-huh. Can I give you the takeaways that we came up with during the 2017 episode? Because I feel like they were pretty good. I actually feel like they were pretty good. We came down on, this is 2017 me. I said, so what we're coming down on here is we should gently expand the parameters of childhood within what's appropriate for childhood while keeping the adult stuff at bay. And then you said, right, push them when they're little, pull them back when they're older. That's where I come out. Let the 8-year-old ride his bike to the park by himself and go play for an hour, but your 11-year-old doesn't need a smartphone. That's what we said 7 years ago before we lived through it.
I failed on that 2017, Margaret. But yeah, I think that's right. I think it is always a push and pull. And also there are kids who need to be pushed and kids who need to be pulled. And that's another huge part of it that I think I see more and more, that like I have kids who I need to say, go up and ask by yourself, or go, do this by yourself, or you and your friend should go and explore this. And, kids who have been out at the mall and run into kids and, stuff starts to go a little sideways. And, okay, how did you figure that out? How could you figure it out more next time? Because The kids should not be figuring this out when they're leaving home for the first time. They need to practice the muscle of being in difficult situations. But then when you have a kid who is always on the line, and that kid when you see him, the kid who's always pushing the boundaries, they may need to be reined in more. And that's fine. And, you may over-rein them in. And then you can also, this is 1,000 conversations, not 3. That's the biggest thing I think I've learned in the intervening years, that this is a conversation about, all right, go try it. Nope, you fouled that one up. We're back in line. Okay, we'll try again in another month. And, or let's push. Okay, you weren't ready for it. We'll push again in another month.
So now we've come to this place in our own lives where I would say 5 out of the 6 kids that we have between us are sort of through these choices, right? For better or worse, they have the phone, they have data, they've done all these things, and it was at a range of ages, and we maybe had less control than we thought we did. But I do think that thinking about this and battling with them, it isn't like, whatever. I don't think you should be hands off about it and just give them a phone the first time they ask. I do think you need to battle with these hard things, even though they're not easy solutions with one size fits all answers.
Never. Its developmental milestones basically continue through the teenage years. So we're coming up on driving now, and I definitely have kids who may be ready to drive at 16 and kids who will not be ready to drive at 16. And just because 16 is when you're supposed to start driving doesn't mean you need to. Let the milestones be personal to you and what really works for your kids. And it's old enough when you all agree it's old
Well
enough.
said.
And then if you mess up, it's not old enough and you got to wait again.
Right. Right. You may learn something along the way. New information.
Indeed. New information. Variables may vary.
Here's some new information for you. We have a YouTube channel where we put shorts and sometimes whole episodes of us on video talking about the things we talk about on this show. If you're a YouTube user, we would love if you would search What Fresh Hell Podcast on YouTube and subscribe to our channel if you don't already. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. YouTube likes that. Don't ask me why. 1,000's the number. It's like 10,000 steps. It's just the number. And we're getting there.
1,000 subscribers. That's a real number. That number does not vary, unlike the many numbers we have been talking about.
Right. How big is big enough to have a YouTube channel? Apparently it's 1,000 subscribers.
1,000 subscribers. So go help us out and subscribe. And with that, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.